We are here to talk about women in IT leadership, challenges, triumphs, things that we can do to improve the experience for women in IT, and especially getting women up to those leadership roles, because I mentioned it in the actual description of the event that there's a 2023 study that said that only 28% of leadership positions are filled by women, which is a pretty crazy statistic. I know Cynthia also has some stats that she ended up digging into that will also probably surprise you as well. But in the meantime, I want to go ahead and just jump into it. I'm going to do a little bit of introductions or I'll have y'all do introductions for yourselves. So Denise, you wanted to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about how long you've been in IT and a little bit about your journey.
Hi, I'm Denise Grandin. I am the sole user support specialist at Cochise College in Southern Arizona. I have been in IT for 18 years now. Seems like a lifetime. I got started in IT. I was working for an office supply company, got injured on the job, and realized I need to do something else for my career, and went to college. Got a degree in computer network administration and security, and here I am.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate you jumping in here and taking the time. I know that things are busy as a as an IT leader, so really appreciate you jumping in here. Cynthia, I know that you've been on before, but do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. My name is Cynthia Chalemi. I own an MSP called WDCS in South Florida, servicing all of Florida. Don't want to date myself, but I've been in IT well over 30 years. I have had some relation with IT probably since I was a very small child. My father was an electronics engineer in the IT space, working in a dinosaur pit. If anybody knows what that is, from back in the 60s. So I kind of grew up with it. Both of my brothers were also very IT savvy. One of them is now a nuclear physicist, and the other is a IT professional. Also, he's an instructor and the head of IT for a series of private schools, also in South Florida.
Wow, man, I y'all have a very accomplished family. I was actually just talking about this with my husband. We went to a wedding the other day, and both of his cousins and his cousin's wife are all in like biomedical engineering, and it's I'm always like, oh wow, I post on the internet, so two very different experiences. So that's amazing. You'll have a very accomplished family. Well, awesome. So kind of wanted to just jump into it and discuss. First, we'll start off with kind of the challenges that women face when getting into the IT field. And especially when it comes to IT management, I think that experience can be really challenging in a number of ways. So, underrepresentation, imposter syndrome, not feeling like you belong in a conversation or belong in a room, a lack of women mentors. I think that's something that a lot of women struggle with in IT, and especially becoming an IT leader. And then just kind of feeling undervalued. So I wanted to discuss maybe what some of those notable struggles are that you have dealt with in your journey through IT.
I'll just jump right in here. I find that the bias and stereotypes are probably one of the biggest hurdles, and because so many of the struggles seem to trickle down from those biases and stereotypes. I feel like women often struggle to prove their technical skills and their leadership abilities more than men have to. Therefore, they're constantly having to show their worth, which unfortunately, leads to other things, that other poor qualities that people don't want to see. They want you to lead like a man, but once you do, now they don't like that because you're a woman. You end up trying to prove yourself over and over and over again, yet you're either not heard or overlooked, or someone else is taking credit for your work, or you have such incredible imposter syndrome from constantly having to regurgitate your knowledge or prove that you're able to compete or complete a task, that you completely second guess yourself, and then you become very introverted with your work. So those things I find are really the biggest hurdles, like I said, because so many struggles stem from those biases and stereotypes as coming into a woman in a predominantly male field.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I was in my college program, I was the only woman in the program. And some of the instructors were like, the guys were screwing around and whatever, and they would blow off a week and, oh, we're going to get tacos. And we'd do a review and come back, and next week we'd have a test, and they would score. One of them one week got a 42 and the other one got a 39, and I had a 96. And the instructor goes, you guys need to be more like her. She's over here working her ass off to do this. Mm-hmm. And you guys just think this is easy. It's not easy. And he goes, especially for me, because being the only woman in the program, I had to do better than everyone else. And then I was like, what question did I miss? And he's like, you got an A. What is, and I'm like, no, it's still not, to me, it wasn't good enough that it was, okay, I need to know this stuff. Mm-hmm. And when I was, my previous job, I was the sysadmin at the public library. And I got a lot of, oh, we don't want to talk to you. We want to talk to your boss. And I'm like, I am the boss. And they're like, I had one vendor that didn't want to deal with me because I was female. And they said, we don't know her qualifications. We don't know where she came from. We don't want to deal with her. You need to get some guy in here. And my library director said, she's who I hired. You deal with her or we will find somebody else. And we found another vendor because they just did not want to deal with me. And the other thing I've found is because my name, I have a lot of, they change it to Dennis. I've had a lot of Mr. Dennis, and people would call me and it's, we'd like to speak to Dennis. And it's like, it's Denise. And they're like, no, we're looking for Dennis. There is no Dennis. It's Denise.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
that is wild. So whenever it comes to these struggles, what makes them so negatively impactful? Like what impact would it have on a business by having these kinds of issues?
I think you'll find, especially now in this cancel culture, that it's just that, it's cancel culture. And I think now if you're if you're suspected of discriminating against anyone for any reason, then people don't want to deal with you. And I'm not really a fan of the cancel culture, but in this instance, it kind of works for women, especially in IT, because of that. You know, it's always been a struggle to fit in these male predominantly owned roles. It's hard. The challenges with networking and mentorship and inclusion has always been very difficult. So with this new culture, I think I'm not going to say that people are more open to working with women, but people are now more afraid to say, I don't want to work with a woman, or I'm not comfortable working with her, or, you know, or maybe voicing the stereotype than they were maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So, why do you feel like it is important that we have these discussions? You know, I think that a lot of people are afraid to have discussions about these kinds of the wage gaps or the gaps in leadership or things like that. Why do you think it's important that we do have these conversations?
I think for women, it's very important to have an open forum to talk about these things, because normally we've been very much be seen and not heard. I mean, that's kind of the way that you're raised. So you don't complain. You're grateful to be where you are. And you're so afraid of losing how far you've come, of having to take a step back because you asked for a promotion, or you complained about a coworker, or you said that you thought that something was unfair. That you're afraid to do that. You're afraid of the repercussions. So having an open forum like this, not just for women, but for men to participate in as well. I mean, it's a lot that we can learn from each other, and people will know that, you know, this is how we're feeling inside if we can't say it at the workplace for whatever reason. But you know, a lot of times people don't know if you don't tell them. So I think it's important to have that back and forth with both men and women in this type of a situation, because, you know, most of the time you are working for a man. You are working with men. And again, they won't know if you don't tell them.
Yeah, well put.
And a couple of years ago at Spice World, when we were doing our Women in IT session, one of the gentlemen in the audience asked about, he hired a female and he was talking to her in dad mode. And what could he do to change it? So these conversations are helpful, that somebody may not realize that, oh, he realized that he hired this female and he was treating her differently than the males he had hired, because he was talking to her like he was dad, and he needed to treat her like he treated the guys. And what could he do to change it?
Yeah. I mean, that was actually initially why I brought you all on, because your experience at Spice World talking about this subject. Exactly.
You know, I'd like to elaborate on that, because that was such an amazing session that we had that year. We had so much participation from the audience and so many people asking questions and thinking about things that they hadn't thought of before. And I remember that gentleman, you know, asking me, and my whole thing was, I try not to treat anybody differently. However, different people do have to be treated differently. People take things differently. Some people aren't good social listeners or good in social situations. So sure, you make accommodations for people on an individual basis. But overall, you want to kind of treat everybody the same. So I'm not going to treat you different because you're a woman. I might give you slightly different accommodations for certain things. Maybe you're not as tall, and all the IT racks are built from the ceiling down, I face that all the time. So, I mean, sure, that kind of an accommodation. But I think for the most part, people think that they do have to treat women differently in the workplace, and you don't. We, like I said, we've grown up a certain way, but that is, be seen, not heard. But that's given us some pretty thick skin. And I think a lot of times men forget that women can take, just as much as men can. And I'm not saying go overboard and be disrespectful and not have a professional workplace. I mean, those things are important, but if you aren't going overboard and you have a professional workplace, there's no reason why you can't, treat men and women the same within that workplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a really good takeaway. Is it's not about treating anybody differently. It's about making an equal playing field for all, which currently it's not. There are too many challenges that women are trying to overcome that you've outlined there. Now, I kind of want to switch over to maybe a bit more of a positive note. What are some things that individuals or even companies can do to help alleviate some of these issues?
I don't want to say sensitivity training, but I mean, I think advocating for women's voices in the workplace, and I don't mean, well, the best way I can describe that is, advocating for women's voices would be more of, if there's a meeting and you've got 3 women and 7 men, don't just pass over the women and only listen to the men because they can be louder. Let's hear everybody say, including the women. I think things like that are very, very important, because a lot of times women do get overlooked because we might not be able to speak up. So call on us. Ask us our opinion. Ask us what we think. Ask us about a project. Ask us the same things you would ask anybody else. I have found in my gazillion years of being employed prior to owning a company that I faced that a lot. I'm usually pretty good about speaking up, but not always. I'm also on the spectrum. So I find that to be true for a lot of people in IT, that they have a hard time maybe getting started. But once they get started, then they're settled in. So I think it's important to be more inclusive. As you would, if you notice somebody can't speak up, then ask them the question. Things like that I think are important, because then once somebody feels included, they're more apt to be more participative in any process.
Mm-hmm.
And what we started doing in our department meeting is we do a round table. Everybody speaks. None of the, okay, it's one person dominating the whole meeting. It's everybody says something. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just what they're working on, do they need help with something? It's just, we're trying to get everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have y'all participated in any sort of like mentorship, maybe not program, but have y'all mentored any younger IT professionals, specifically maybe women, and kind of encourage them to grow within IT?
I have once.
Yeah.
A former coworker, and she's no longer in our department. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to get her to go back to school to finish her degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She has an associate's degree, but I'm trying to get her to, okay. And she goes, oh, I can't afford school. And, but I still try to get her involved in stuff. I'll give her info on different organizations to check out, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Is she still in IT or?
No.
Okay. And does she want to get back into IT?
Yes.
Okay. So there's just a barrier there of.
Yeah.
of probably a myriad of different reasons why, you know, money.
And she was trying to get another IT position, and I said, I will be a reference.
Mm-hmm.
I know how she works, and she used to write up our documentation and stuff. So yeah. So I was trying to help, and it's one of the young men that used to work in our departments. I had some conversations with him, and I told him, I said, I'm not trying to be like mom or anything, but there was some things that he was doing, so I was treating him like if it was female coworker. It was He was walking around campus holding hands with his girlfriend and stuff during work hours, and I said, you cannot be doing that. I said, he goes, but I'm on lunch. And I said, people watch us. They watch the department. You cannot, if we have to be professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And then he thought about it, and he goes, you're right. He goes, and then he started asking me other things, and now he has a job someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a promotion, and every once in a while he comes by the office and he'll ask me questions. So yeah, I kind of, some of the younger people.
Yeah.
So there are opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I think it's really important that
we do
are.
a 6-month internship through a partnership with FAU, which is Florida Atlantic University, here on the southeast coast of Florida. We've been participating in that now for probably, I think we started that in 2018. So we do a 6-month rotation with, we do with computer science, MIS, people just going for a bachelor that want to get into IT. So we do an internship. It's a paid internship where they come, they start off in the office, and we actually we train them basically for help desk, just so like an overall knowledge, so they get a feel. People come in, they already have a lot of experience because they've been tinkering, since they could walk, and some people don't. And we get a lot of calls later on of, hey, you really started my IT career. Thank you very much, and giving me the experience, seeing what parts of IT I like, what I don't like, what I'm apt for, what I'm not an apt for, what I'm apt for, not. So it's kind of worked out really well, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been, like I said, we've been doing that since about 2018, and since 2018, we've had 16 people in and out of our door. Let me take that back. 15 people. One person's still with us. So yeah, it's been really nice. And as far as like the ratio for men to women, it has been, we've had 6 women out of those 16 people.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. And I'm assuming they're still kind of in IT maybe, or
all but one person is in IT.
That's awesome.
The other person went on to go to school for a medical degree.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, that's still amazing to have that opportunity to be able to mentor people. And I think that kind of positive mentorship probably gave them the confidence to continue on in IT and maybe even get up to leadership roles eventually and things like that. So I think this is a good example of how your specific actions can impact, women in IT.
Sure.
Trevor actually had a couple of questions that I'd like to go through. First one, he said, during my last round of hiring in most skilled and entry-level IT, there was still a noticeable shortage of women applicants. Are there still heavy barriers to entry for our youth, a general lack of interest, or do you see any shifts as a possibility?
I think STEM has really helped that that has started that on a change. Um, and and I see a lot of women now going into more of an engineering space rather than a technical space due to STEM, which is still fantastic. I mean, that's amazing. But I think in the years to come, you'll really be able to see that change, because as more STEM programs are available and more schools are implementing these in even the elementary school level, I think it's really changing how women see what they are capable of. Because for so long, I think, plenty of women were interested in IT. There was just nowhere to go to get that information, especially or to get that education when you're, having more female role duties in your personal life. It becomes very difficult to balance, making dinner for your husband, keeping the house clean, going to school, taking care of kids, but I see that as more women are coming into the field, more types of work, life, school balance are falling into place in other places, such as school and jobs and things. I think people are starting to see that, we are not just who we are when we sit in a desk for 8 hours a day, that we all have lives that can possibly interfere. So as those things start to change, because of STEM, I mean, that affects so many things, not just the things that you find that you're going to do as your career, but it also opens, like I said, changes the way people are taught, changes the way internships happen. I think we'll see a lot more diverse people in these types of roles and seeking out these roles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. When I was looking for stats on this, I don't have any off the top of my head, but that is a big focus, is getting women more involved in STEM. I think that's going to definitely help women get into IT and feel more confident in it. And then the next question that Trevor has, I think, is a really, really good one. And what are helpful things male peers can do to help release you from the imposter syndromes, feelings of not belonging in this field, especially for those newly promoted and dealing with those feelings the most strongly?
Man, IT is full of people with imposter syndrome. So I don't that one in particular is going to be a tough one to alleviate, because the women have it, the men have it, we've all got it.
Yeah.
Very few people walk around in IT like, yeah, I got it all under control. Because even the ones that do, deep down inside, are like, did I really?
Yeah.
But I think fostering an inclusive workplace culture is really where it's at. It's listening to people, and it's advocating for people who maybe don't have a voice to put themselves out there, which could be women or anybody, but a lot of times it is the women who have a very hard time using their voice to express anything other than good morning. So it's like I said before, we're taught to be seen and not heard. We grow up being subservient. So don't expect the woman in the office to be the one that's going to get coffee, because she'll do it most of the time because it's easier. But help people fit in. I mean, don't just have football parties after work. Not everybody likes football to begin with, but what I'm saying is that, again, a predominantly male thing. Just be more inclusive so that you're not making people feel singled out.
Yeah. And I think to that point too, it's like, it goes back to focusing on individuals and what they appreciate and what they value. So, and going back to your point of people should be treated equally. I love football, but there might be a guy that doesn't like football. And so, it's all about learning what your team really enjoys and appreciates, and kind of treating them as equal as you can.
And I think anybody that, look, I don't believe in the culture of everybody on the baseball team gets a trophy. That makes me mad. And I'm not saying that people have to have a parade put up their butt, but I think recognizing when somebody's doing a good job does so much to boost their morale and want them to do more, and helps them be seen and realize that they are seen. I mean, those are some really good ways to help reduce imposter syndrome. Recognizing people for doing a good job. I mean, we always point out the negative things because that's, because we have an expectation. So when people aren't meeting the expectation, it's really easy to say, hey, you're not doing this, you need to work on this. But, let's go above and beyond just a tad and say, hey, you did a great job on this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your hard work. Thanks for staying an hour late. Thanks for working with the team. Thanks for taking this on. And even if somebody's not doing it well, man, I appreciate your effort. We just need to channel it a little bit differently and take a different route. But I certainly appreciate what you're trying to do, even if it sucks.
Yeah.
I think those kinds of things are very important and help people, one, not feel like imposters, but two, bring them out of their shell so that they can start to learn to advocate for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listening and communication. You need both.
Yeah. Is there anything that maybe male peers can do to improve that listening and communication?
Use your brain. I can say that to everybody. Use your brain. What would you want? I mean, it's not really that difficult. Just think about what. Look, not everything you want is going to be what I want, and vice versa. But let's think about it in terms of what do you want that's not so incredibly biased to you. Sure, I love chocolate cake every day, all day, but I'm not going to bring in chocolate cake for everybody every single day. Everybody likes a little bit of chocolate cake. Let's bring a little bit of chocolate cake here and now and then. So let's just use the brain about how we're treating people and see them is really what it's about. It's not anything that a man can do, or it's not specifically what a man can do or what specifically a woman could do for another woman. It's just, let's think about it and, treat people like people.
Yeah. And how would you go about encouraging women to feel more confident about speaking up at work?
I always remind everybody that, you're here because of your merit. You weren't given this position here for any other reason other than your merit and the potential that I can see that someone has. And I always remind people, you have to, you really do have to be assertive in the business world. You just have to. But you have to remember that you're here for a reason. And if you don't speak up, people will not realize that you have potential for more than what you're giving them. You have to always, I'm not saying you have to give more, but you have to show that you're interested. You have to show that, you're interested in more and that you want more and can do more if that's what you want. I mean, if you don't, then, zip it. But it's important to remind people that you have to learn to advocate for yourself, because nobody else is going to do it for you. It's not my job to say, hey, let's go. There's a better position for you. Let's keep you moving. No, because then that shows me that you're not motivated, and maybe this other position isn't right for you.
Denise, how did you kind of build that confidence in, you had that one specific woman that you were mentoring and you're trying to get her back into IT. How did you try to build up her confidence?
She would only do what she knew how to do. She was afraid to try something. Mm-hmm. And I started getting her out of her comfort zone by giving her tasks of, here, go try this. I don't know how to do that. I will walk you through it the first time. The next time, try it yourself. And I said, if you have problems, call me. We'll get through this. And so it started to build up her confidence of, okay, so she started to get out of her comfort zone, that it's, okay, you know more than you think you know. I think that's a lot of us, that we know more than we think we do. That's part of the imposter syndrome, that it's, every once in a while, I catch myself going, okay, do I really want to do this? And then I realized that, okay, I do know how to do this. And so that's what I was trying with her was, okay, giving her different tasks. And when she graduated with her associates, I got her a book about being a badass. And she was like, this book was great. She says, this is exactly what I needed. So it was just something, just even for anybody, just give them just a little, just something, just kind of push them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. That is a great point. Sometimes you know a lot more than you think you do. And some people are a little bit more afraid to take those leaps into doing something that they're unfamiliar with, especially when it comes to your job. I mean, you're afraid of a lot of things, being let go, feeling embarrassed, things like that. But it's important to let people know that they can learn and grow. And so I kind of wanted to, for last kind of end this discussion about leadership specifically. So being a leader as a woman in IT, are there any specific struggles that you deal with as a woman leader, and how do you kind of answer to those struggles, and how do you adapt to them? Oh, Cynthia, you're muted. No. I saw your lips asking if I could hear you now, but.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Dang it. I thought that we could. Every time we have technical troubles, it's we got to get an IT person in here. We have any around.
I know one of my struggles was our previous CIO. I was trying to get all of our staff. At the time, it was more female than male. And I was asking for tools to be able to do our jobs. We were hired because of our skills and our knowledge, mm-hmm. and we don't have the tools to be able to do our job. Why? So I was suggesting to the CIO, and I went up to him and we had a discussion, and I had a whole list of, these are the things that we need. And he's like, yeah, we'll get to it. And completely ignored me. A man went up to him with the same things I had said, and he did it instantly. And it was like, I didn't understand. It was he used my notes and he got the stuff done. but
Yeah.
it's
really, really disheartening.
but it's you people have to listen.
Mhm.
They really do.
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of my struggle here is um, with previous leadership that's been all men that for they don't like to listen to me. I don't know what it is, but they just wanted no part of it. And our last director, he was all when he started, everybody was like, oh, I don't know that. Talk to Denise. Talk to Denise. So he finally stopped talking to everybody else and would come straight to me and say, okay, you have answers that I need.
Yeah.
And so he started giving me more responsibility. And unfortunately, he left us in December.
Oh.
So now we're going to have a new director and I'm going to have to start all over again.
Gosh. I'm so sorry. Hopefully it's a little bit easier this time.
We shall see, because we're also trying to replace our CIO. So
Gosh.
everything's up in the air here.
Yeah. Yeah. As if it wasn't hectic enough. No.
No.
Oh no. I'm so sorry, Cynthia. I'm like, let's see. Because I know you were having issues with your camera earlier, but I don't know why it would suddenly not work. Nothing. I feel like you had such a good answer too. You were so excited.
She could always type it in and we could read it.
That's true. Yeah, I would be happy to do that. No, I can see you mouthing. Can you hear me? Which is the only reason I keep saying no. I think maybe the days that we've all been on Zoom, we've all gotten to the point where we're saying, "Oh, can you see me?" or "Can you hear me?" and then
Mime your answer. Okay, so we could like charades. There we go.
Oh, fun. Well, that's okay, Cynthia. I don't want to make you try to figure that out. If you want to, you can always put it in the chat and we can say it, or you can just put it in the live stream recap that I usually post. So whatever works best for you. I don't want to make you feel like you have to mess with things too much. Yeah, I think that kind of wrapped up all of my questions. So, Denise, do you have any additional advice, whether it's for women getting into IT or that are IT leaders, or men that are trying to help kind of grow the relationships between women and men in IT? Do you kind of have any final thoughts there?
Find a mentor. Don't be afraid to ask questions. There's always something new to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Continue your education.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm continuing my education. My employer is not paying for me to continue my education. They don't pay for me to participate in any conferences like Spice World.
Mm.
I do it out of my own pocket. I do it for my own education. I do it to meet people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I learned a lot of people that go to Spice World do is they pay for it all on their own. And I think that's a whole other conversation in itself that there's a lot of
I found value in meeting other IT people. That it's, if I have an issue with something, like right now, I'm going to be working on Windows 11 migration and a migration to M365.
Yeah.
And I have to teach myself like Intune and things. And there's some IT guys that go to Spice World, and I've been hitting them up with, hey, I have to learn this stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Where do I go? And they don't look at me as, they don't see me as, oh, somebody that's inferior, or, oh, just go make coffee or a sandwich. They don't have those kind of attitudes. They actually see me as a peer, and they have no problems helping.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's male, female, if somebody says, hey, I'm trying to do this, help them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem with helping each other. And I think that's, years ago, it wasn't like that. It's getting better. We still have a ways to go, but there are people that you can talk to. If you can't find a woman, you may find a male mentor that will help you. So just look for that. Look for your people. Look for the ones that will, your tribe. Look for your group that it's okay, even if it's just 4 or 5 of you, that you guys can hash things out. Just, I think that's something that a lot of us need.
Yeah.
Even if it's outside of IT, you just you need to have your tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Cynthia, I think your mic is officially, no, dang it. Okay. Well, I will be posting this recording. It'll go up right after, and then I'll be posting a wrap up. So, Cynthia, if you want to drop any of your final thoughts there, definitely feel free to. We would love to see them. And yeah, I think that's it for me today and for this stream. We will be doing our next stream in a couple of weeks, and we'll be covering IT processes. So creating IT processes, how exactly you go about doing that. So it should be a great discussion. And then actually, haven't put it on the actual calendar yet, but in April we'll be discussing imposter syndrome, and we'll be discussing how that impacts people within IT. Because as everybody has mentioned, imposter syndrome is all over IT. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, a lot of people struggle with it. So I think it'll be good to get a panel on to discuss ways to alleviate that stress. But anyways, thank you so much, Denise and Cynthia, for hopping on today. Really, really incredible information. And I hope to get y'all in another stream soon. But take care. Have a good rest of the day, and I'll talk to you later.